Hello everybody, good morning. Hope you all are doing well. I am just getting ready for work. I work from home full-time, but I found that one of the biggest things that helps me stay productive, even when I'm at home, is getting ready for the day. Putting on a nice sweater or blouse, throwing some makeup on, doing my hair, sort of the usual things, like as if I was going to an office. So I'm here in my home office, and I'm gonna share with you my sort of everyday makeup routine, my go-to. But before I do that, let me just give you a little bit of background on me and my skin. So I'm 31 years old. I'm about to be 32 in a couple of months here. My skin is combination, used to be very, very, very oily. But as I've entered my 30s, my skin is sort of more combination and even a little bit dry, especially with tretinoin. I do use tretinoin. I've made a couple videos on this before. I'll try to link it. Most of the products I'm going to use are actually drugstore makeup, with the exception of eyeshadow. So typically, I feel like a lot of people buy higher end face products like foundation, but I actually like quite a few options from the drugstore. I prefer higher end eyeshadows. There's a couple of drugstore that I like, but for the most part, I only invest in like one or two quality eyeshadow palettes, and that's it. I don't really keep too many more eyeshadow palettes around. Let's go ahead and get started. I am going to have a sip of coffee because it's early and I need that. So first I'm gonna prime my eyelids. I am someone who does my eye makeup first. I do have a mirror here, so you may see me just looking over a little bit. I take a concealer that is ending, like this one from Flower Beauty, and I just try to scrape the sides and the bottom of whatever is left that's not enough to use on my under eye or is a little bit too dried out. And I use that as my eyeshadow primer. So it's just a nice way to use up product before you throw it out, and it really gets everything off, so then you can clean the tube to recycle it. So I pretty much keep to the same sort of eyeshadow looks, more or less. It's not the same exact every single day. I do like sort of romantic, wash of color type of eyeshadows. I'm gonna use the Naked 3 palette. I got this last year on the Black Friday sale, but I know they had it again this year. Now, when I buy eyeshadow palettes, I try to look for something where I'm gonna use at least 80 to 90% of the shades. And looking at this, I will use everything, or I do use everything, except for these two here. I mean, sometimes I use these as an eyeliner, but I don't use these two on a regular basis. They're just a little bit too dark on me, but everything else I use on an everyday basis. So it's very, very nice and versatile palette. So for today's look, I'm gonna go with like one of my tried and true go-to, and that is this shade right here. It's a little like pinky shade. So I've got this sort of eyeshadow brush, very old, from the brand Artistry. It's their eye contour brush, but it's sort of like the perfect shade for just sort of like in a sloppy way applying eyeshadow. And that's how I usually start. I just put it on kind of messily, and then I will buff it out with a blending shade. The next brush I'm gonna take is from, I'm pretty sure this is e.l.f. It's their Crease shadow brush, like this. And I'm gonna go into this shade right here, which is the perfect. I mean, if you have fair skin, this shade Limit, oh, and the other one I put on was Buzz, but this shade Limit is absolutely perfect for blending out the crease without adding much color, just blending and buffing. Like, I don't know if you can see, it's like just blended together, and it's very soft. I don't do very dark looks. Next, I'm gonna take this brush from Clinique. It's sort of like a doe foot brush. I don't think this has any sort of name on it. It's old, and I'm pretty sure it came in one of those free gifts. And I'm gonna go into this matte shade here. This is called Nooner. I'm gonna pick up a tiny bit of that and just place it here in my outer corner to add a little bit of depth. Okay, and I'm really sorry if the lighting is off in here, but it's kind of dark outside, so I'm doing the best I can to stage some lights here in the absence of, you know, natural light. All right, I was able to zoom you in a little bit, so I'm gonna go back in with the limit shade from before and just buff it out. So if you can see, it's just very soft and pink. Actually, I feel like the camera is not really picking up on the eyeshadow like at all. So that's it for my eyeshadow look. Really quick and simple and just pinky. I like pinky shades. So next I'm gonna go in with mascara. This one is from e.l.f. It's the Lash It Loud Volumizing Mascara. It's okay. It transfers a little bit on my top lid. A lot of mascaras do that. There's really just a few that I found that are not waterproof that don't do that. So I'm gonna just apply this, and I do a couple of coats. And it's one of those that is good to put on, let it sit for a while, and then put on the second coat. All right, guys, so there is the eyeshadow, very gentle, and the mascara. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go in with the Catrice True Skin foundation. I really like this one. The color match is maybe not great for me because I'm very pale, and it's a little bit, I think this is the lightest color. What is this? 004. No, 004 Neutral Porcelain, but it was the lightest one at my drugstore, which only carried like 4 or 5 shades. So I take a full pump like this, and that might even be too much. It's very runny, but it's quite nice in that it's medium coverage, but it feels very light on the skin. And it does wear really nicely, especially if you have some dry spots from tretinoin. This sort of lies on top of them and it doesn't accentuate them like some other foundations that I've tried do. And I didn't use all of that pump because I'm gonna sort of start out light and then add if I need to add anywhere. But I have come to realize that I prefer a medium to full coverage foundation and just sheer it out. And I feel like those foundations, the medium and full coverage, are the ones that tend to stay the best on my skin through a long work day, and usually I go to the gym in the evening, so that's just what I've come to really enjoy. But this one I love because, like, for example, I'm looking in the mirror now, it just looks like skin. Like, it literally looks like, I mean, someone could say that I don't have makeup on if they saw me in person, because you can still see through my skin, like some of my hyperpigmentation right there, which I don't mind. I mean, I'll put a little tiny bit extra there, just a little dot. I don't mind that. I really just want things to be a little bit evened out, but I'm not going for like a cakey look or super high coverage, you know? Like, I don't know if you can see, it just looks like skin still. Then for concealer, I'm gonna use the Catrice True Skin concealer, which is another holy grail of mine now. It's really beautiful, honestly, and it's high coverage concealer. That's what it says, hyaluronic acid waterproof, 18-hour hydrating. Now, I don't do full coverage, but again, with concealers, I'm finding the same thing, that I prefer something high coverage and just do a little tiny dot and blend it out versus something that is low coverage and I'm caking on like 1, 2, 3 layers to get, you know, something there. I just prefer now like more high coverage concealer. So here's what I've learned over the last year or so, you know, as I entered in my 30s. When you start getting fine lines and sort of dryness around your eyes, especially underneath your eyes, less is more, right? And that's where a full coverage concealer comes in, and just putting a tiny little dot, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 dots, and that's it. If you do like the swipe or the triangle and you've got fine lines under there, it's gonna settle no matter what concealer you're using, right? Because concealer is going to settle in your lines, period. So I'm gonna show you. So it's got a very, very nice applicator, and I literally put like a little bit on my inside of my corners like that, and a tiny little dot on the outside. And that's it. And just putting a tiny little amount like this and blending it out and setting it with powder, I find that it doesn't crease that much, right? So it's more about like the amount than the type of concealer. But again, with the high coverage, you can just do a little bit and you get, you know, really nice effect. So I'm just gonna pinch my brush, my sponge here, and blend it out. And the other eye too. And of course, if I feel I need more after I do this step, I might add more. But, you know, it depends how much sleep I got, how much water I'm drinking, you know, all those factors dictate as well, like how much concealer I'm gonna use. I'm just gonna do a tiny bit more. So yeah, there's the under eye concealer. Again, it looks, here it looks, you can see I have some fine lines here. So yeah, it will start to settle in there, but it looks natural for the most part, right? So anyways, I'm gonna set all of this with a bit of powder. This is from a brand called Milucca. I found it at the drugstore here in Poland, but I haven't seen this brand anywhere else. It's very nice. It's just a translucent, like white powder. Really nothing more to it than that. So I'm gonna take a little brush like this for setting. I've got some in my cap. And I'm gonna pat that underneath my eyes. And again, I just wanna show you how nice and smooth that concealer looks. Yeah. All right, moving on to blush. So I've got this blush that I'm using right now. It's not technically a blush. I think it's a highlighter. It's from the brand Essence Lift Up Your Face Luminizer Palette. But for me and my skin tone, this is a blush. It's sort of like a peachy color, and it is shimmery, not glittery, shimmery. But it looks really, really nice as a blush. So I'm gonna put some of that on. That's the blush application. It's very subtle and very, very natural, which is what I like, especially because I have pale skin. So some blushes, if they're too pigmented or too pink or too red, it just becomes too much, right? I'm gonna throw a little bit of bronzer on. This is from the brand Hean, H-E-A-N. It's another drugstore brand here that you can find here in Poland, but I haven't seen it in other countries. But anyways, this is a bronzer, but it's very light, which is perfect for my pale skin. So I'm gonna just throw a little bit on my forehead, and I like to do this step, just a very, very light application of it, because I feel like it just gives my face a little bit of light and dimension, you know? Otherwise, I'm kind of ghostly pale. So just a little bit, you know, just to add a little something. And I will take a bit and put it on my nose. I know some people do this with blush, but I like to do this with bronzer to give that sort of effect. And then I do a little bit on my chin as well, because I think it looks really cute. I like to put a little bit of like bronzer or blush on your nose and your chin like that. I just like it. so next I'm gonna do a little bit of eyeliner. So I've got this pen eyeliner from Sephora, and I'm gonna just do a little tiny wing, but I don't do it from the very inner corner to the outer corner because I've got one hooded eyelid. So if you can see, this eyelid is hooded, this one is not. So if I do it from the inside out, it really closes this eye off, and that is not what I'm going for. I want to open my eyes up, right? So what I do is I apply the liner sort of from, I would say, a third to halfway from my eyelid out, like that. So if you can see, it's not all the way, it's not from all the way from my inner corner, it's sort of just from like about halfway. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same on my other eye. Okay, there you go. That's the eyeliner applied. So same thing here, I just put it from like sort of the middle of the eyelid out. For my bottom lashes, what I like to do, and here's a little trick also to use up some older makeup, is I take a mascara that is too dried out for my top lashes. Because new mascaras, like the e.l.f. one that I'm using, I find they're too wet for the bottom and they sort of get messy and they smudge. So I take, like this was the mascara I was using, or I had opened before the e.l.f. one. It's from Revolution. It's their 5D Lash Extra Dimension Mascara. But it's dried out. It's too dried out for me to use on my top lashes. But for the bottom, it's perfect. It just adds a little something something without being overly dramatic or messy or getting all over the place. So I sort of always have two mascaras in rotation, an older one that I use for my bottom and a newer one that I use for my top. I mean, within reason. Obviously, you don't want to use mascaras that are super old, but I wear makeup most days, so for me, mascaras, like I go through them every 2 or 3 months approximately. All right, guys, so now for the final touches, I'm gonna add a bit of highlight. I'm gonna add some highlight. This is from Smashbox, and I'm pretty much almost run out of it. It's a stick highlighter. I add a bit there. I add some to my cheekbones just to give a nice glow. Cupid's bow, a little bit on my nose and inner corner. And it's super quick. As you can see, I just applied it like in 1 minute, under 1 minute, right? I really, really like this stuff, the Smashbox stick. But I know that Wet n Wild has a really nice one as well. Maybelline does too. Okay, so for the final touch, I'm gonna put on some lip gloss. This is Bare Minerals Marvelous Moxy. For every day, working from home, just taking some calls here, I don't really do lipstick. I do either like a shiny lip gloss. So anyways, my camera cut out again, but I was just applying this lip balm. It's really, really nice. It's just it's a natural, sort of neutral shade, and it's perfect to add a little something without going overboard, which is like what my everyday natural makeup is all about. So let me just get in a little bit closer so you can see. So really I just focus on light, healthy skin, something on the eyelids that makes me happy and I feel like, you know, opens my eyes up. That's my makeup look for today. I'm going to finish my coffee and get to work. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and like if you did, and stick around for future videos from me. Bye!